Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing amazing and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video we will see how we can create a repository and how we can clone or copy our existing repository from any remote repository like GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket. So all of those remote repository service providers are pretty much the same thing, right? So we will see how we can use it from GitHub. So first thing first, if you have seen the last video, we have created a local repository in our my first project, right? So if you don't remember what we have done, we will create another repository today. So have a look to it carefully. So first we need to go into our working directory. So if we create a working directory, let's say um, let's keep it like working directory as the folder name. So working dir. So once we have done that, we will go into that working directory. So now I am in working directory. So in order to initialize or create a git repository, the simple command is git init. So git init will initialize a repository which we already have seen. So in this way we can create a local repository. However, we don't want to do that because in that case we also have to connect with our remote repository that we have seen earlier in the last video. So instead what we will do is we will create a remote repository, and from there we will simply do a cloning. So let's do one thing, let's delete this working directory. Okay, so let's go back to whichever remote repository service you are using. In my case is GitHub. So I already have one project created. So what we'll do, we will go into that existing repository, and over there you will see something called code. So if we click on code and come into this local space, so you will see that there are three different ways we can clone existing repository. So we will click on HTTPS, which will be selected by default, and we will copy the URL of this project. So simply what we'll do is cloning or copy from of this remote repository, right? So the command that we'll be using is called git clone, and then we will paste the URL that we copied. So once we have done that, press enter, and that will clone this repository. So now I can see that it will create this directory called my first repo. So if I go into my first repo, so I can see that it also shows that I am in the main branch currently. That means it's a Git repository, and Git can actually track it, right? So this way we can create a repository, and we can get it from a remote repository to our local repository. And again, if you remember that flow, we had these git clone, right? So we could have taken any existing repository from any of those service provider and use this git clone command to get it in our working directory. So now if I try to make some changes over here, let's see what we have. So we have a index.html file. So let's make some modification on that. So let's add another line. Let's say it's new line. So let's press Control S to save and Control X to exit. So now that we have done some modification, let's check the status. So it's been modified, this index.html file. Now remember, when we say we will do a commit, there is two steps that we have to do. The first step is sending all the changes to the staging area, and the next step would be doing a git commit using the git commit command. So we will do git add, and now this git add, we will add all the changes to the staging area. So as we see that we have only modified in index.html, we could have simply said git add index.html and it will add the changes. Now if we have multiple files or multiple folders over here, we could have specified all of their name. For example, we have this readme .md file as well. So if we have modified this readme, we could have typed these file names one by one. So ideally you can specify the file names one in each command, or multiple file names within the same command. Or if you have a lot of files that you have modified, you could have simply say git add dot, and git add dot will add all the changes that we have made in all the files in our current directory. So this dot means the current directory. So we will press enter and it will add all the changes to the staging area. And the second part of a git commit is the git commit command itself. So we will say git commit -m to add a message, and then we'll say that we have changed the index.html file. So now that we have done that, press enter and the commit has been done. So as we have cloned the remote repository, so there is already a connection between these local repository and the remote repository, my first repo, right? So we don't need to set up all the connection of remote repository with our local repository that we have done in the previous video. So all we need is calling this git push command, and this git push command will send all the changes into this remote repository. So if we go into index.html file, you can see the line that we have added. Now what if we make some changes over in this remote repository? It can happen that some of your other colleagues in your team has worked in the remote repository or modified the remote repository. So let's do that. So I will click on that edit file. So what I will do, I will maybe create another line over here, maybe B to bold, and I will say this is a bold line, and the same way we have done a commit before, so we will do a commit over here as well. So commit changes, now it automatically gives me a commit message, but if I need extended description of it, I can also add it as well. So it says that this commit will go directly into the main branch, as we don't have any other branches over here, so we'll keep it as default. So we will do commit changes, so click on these and it will do the commit. So you can see that that commit message is now over here, and we just made a changes. Now our local repository is not aware of the changes we have made in our remote repository, right? So in order to get all the updated changes from the remote repository, what we can do is, now that we are we are trying to pull some changes from our remote repository, right? So we are not sending anything, we are taking, or we are bringing some information. So we will use the command called git pull. So we will say git pull and press enter, and that will bring all the changes that we have done. So if I go to these index.html file, I will see it. Also you can see that it says that there is one changes in our index.html file, and it says that there is one insertion. if I go into that, I can see that now this B is highlighted as well because it's been modified, right? So in this way we will be able to bring all the updated information from our remote repository. So that would be all for this video. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you.